Eliminate anxiety by embracing what you can actually change right now. This one Stoic trick can destroy anxiety forever. No one talks about this. I want you to imagine this. You're standing in a hospital room. The lights are dim, the air is thick, and the silence is terrifying. You've just been told that someone you love, someone who raised you, laughed with you, maybe even sacrificed everything for you, has 24 hours left to live. Your stomach twists. Your thoughts race. Why is this happening? What can I do? Is there any way to fix this? Now, freeze that frame. That exact moment was real for me. My mother lay in a hospital bed, and I was completely powerless. My mind spiraled into a pit of panic, dread, and helplessness. I was drowning in anxiety until something happened that changed everything. It was a single sentence, whispered by a nurse who didn't even look at me when she said it. She said, "All you can do is be here now." That was it. 7 words. But in those 7 words was a lifetime of wisdom. A wisdom that echoes through the ancient halls of Stoic philosophy. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how those 7 words, and everything they imply, can obliterate anxiety from your life. Starting right now. Because the truth is, most of what we stress about, it's not even real. It's projections. It's illusions. We stress about the future or replay the past. But neither of those are things we can touch or change. So let's burn the illusion to the ground. Have you ever caught yourself saying something like, "What if I fail? What if they hate me? What if I lose everything?" Yeah, me too. But here's what the Stoics would ask us. Is it happening right now? Can you, in this very moment, do something about it? If the answer is no, then it's not worth your peace. And if the answer is yes, then you should stop worrying and start doing. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king of Rome, wrote this in his Meditations. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Let that settle for a moment. Imagine, actually feel it, that 99% of the things you worry about are simply not within your control. Like the weather, other people's opinions, traffic jams, the economy, or even whether someone texts you back. And yet, we lose sleep over those things. We compromise our joy. We betray ourselves chasing shadows. Why? Because we haven't been taught how to separate what we can control from what we can't. And that's exactly what Stoicism gives us. A mental filter that removes 90% of the garbage thoughts that lead to anxiety. So let's do something insane right now. Let's get practical. Right now, yes, right this second, I want you to think about something that's been eating at you. A deadline, a conversation, a fear, a what if. Now ask yourself, can I change this right now? Not tomorrow, not next week, right now. If you can't, then you've identified anxiety's greatest lie. That worrying somehow prepares you. But worrying doesn't prepare you. It just paralyzes you. You've never worried your way to a better life. You've never sat there panicking and emerged with clarity. What gives you clarity is focus. What gives you power is action. What gives you peace is acceptance. Now let me tell you the second story, one that hit just as hard. But in a different way. A friend of mine was once laid off from his job. No warning, just a short email and an awkward Zoom call. He called me, pacing, almost shouting. How am I supposed to pay rent? How do I explain this to my kids? What am I supposed to do? I didn't give him a pep talk. I didn't tell him it would be okay. I asked him one question. What can you do in the next hour? He paused. He said, I guess, update my resume. I said, great, then that's where we start. And that's what we did. One action, one choice. In the storm of his emotions, we anchored to the only thing we could control, now. And slowly, step by step, he built his way out. He didn't just find a new job, he found a better one. More aligned, less stressful, more purposeful. That's not magic, that's Stoicism. Epictetus, a former slave turned legendary philosopher, once said, It's not things that upset us, but our judgments about them. It's not the job loss. It's our belief that we're doomed. It's not the breakup. It's our belief that we're unlovable. It's not the silence. It's our belief that we've been rejected. But beliefs can be changed. And judgments can be updated. Which means, your entire inner world is in your hands. Let me ask you something brutally honest right now. If you stop trying to control things you can't control, what would happen to your anxiety? Seriously, take a second. If you stop trying to predict the future, if you stopped obsessing over how people see you, if you stopped expecting everything to be perfect, what would that feel like? That feeling? That breath of space in your chest? That's freedom, and it's already available. You just have to let go of the illusion that you need to worry. Because guess what? You can't stop the rain from falling, but you can grab an umbrella. You can't control what people say, but you can choose your response. You can't dictate the outcome, but you can dominate your effort. And once you actually embrace that, anxiety loses its grip. Like trying to fight someone who suddenly refuses to fight back, it just falls apart. That's the essence of this video. That's the whole point of Stoicism. To eliminate anxiety, not by running from life, but by running straight into life, fully present, completely grounded in what's real, now. And just when you think it couldn't get deeper. The night I almost died, and why it made me unstoppable. I'm going to tell you a story now that I've never told publicly. And I warn you, it's dark, but it's also one of the most important nights of my life. I was 23, broke, alone, sitting in a beat-up car that barely ran, parked on a quiet cliffside road late at night. I'd just lost someone I deeply loved, and I felt like my entire life had collapsed. No job, no direction, no reason. And as the wind howled outside and the cold crept in, my mind went somewhere terrifying. Maybe it would just be easier to end it. Maybe all this pain would finally stop. I stared at the blackness beyond the cliff, and something ancient echoed in my mind, something I'd read from Seneca, the Roman Stoic. Sometimes even to live is an act of courage. And it hit me, not like a comforting quote, but like a punch to the chest. To live is an act of courage. To choose to stay when your mind says flee. To keep breathing when your thoughts are drowning you. To remain when everything screams run. I wasn't weak for feeling what I felt. I was human, but I would be weak if I let that moment define the rest of my life. I realized I didn't need to solve everything. I didn't need to plan the next 10 years. I didn't even need to fix tomorrow. I just needed to make it through this night, and take one step forward when the sun came up. That night changed me, not because the pain disappeared, but because I finally understood this. You only need to change what you can. Right now. Not the past. Not the future. Not other people. Just your next step. And from that moment, everything began to shift. Now, I know you might not be standing on a cliff. But maybe your anxiety feels just as heavy. Maybe your thoughts feel just as dark. So I ask you, what's your next step? Not your final step, not the perfect one, just your next one. Because anxiety thrives in ambiguity. It multiplies when we try to control too many variables at once. But when we simplify, when we zoom all the way in, it dies. Let's zoom in together. You wake up, you feel a rush of panic. Emails, deadlines, bills. It hits you like a tidal wave. Pause. What can I change right now? I can get out of bed. I can breathe deeply. I can drink water. I can write down my top 3 priorities. Those are actions, those are choices, and every single one dismantles anxiety. Now imagine doing that every single day. That's not just a coping mechanism, that's a revolution. You're not escaping your problems, you're facing them from a place of grounded clarity. That's Stoicism in action. The Stoics taught something called the dichotomy of control, a mental model that divides the world into two categories. 1. Things I can control. 2. Things I can't. That's it, 2 boxes. One is your kingdom, the other, not your problem. Let me give you a shocking example of how this saved someone's life. There's a man named James Stockdale. He was a U.S. Navy pilot during the Vietnam War. Shot down and captured, he spent 7 years in a brutal prisoner of war camp. Tortured, starved, isolated. Most men in those camps broke, gave up, despaired, but Stockdale survived. Why? Because of one Stoic book, The Enchiridion by Epictetus. He said this philosophy gave him a framework. I never lost faith in the end of the story. I never doubted that I would prevail. But I also confronted the most brutal facts of my current reality. That's Stoicism. That's the paradox of resilience. Accept reality fully, and still choose hope. Can you do that? Can you look your situation straight in the eye and say, yes, this is hard, this is painful, but I still choose to show up? Because if you can do that, anxiety has no power over you. Let's do another real-world breakdown, something painfully relatable: social rejection. You text someone, they don't reply. You apply for a job, no response. You post online, no likes. Instantly, the brain spirals. What did I do wrong? Am I not enough? But pause again. What do I control here? Did I write the best message I could? Did I apply with full effort? Did I express myself authentically? If yes, then you did your part. What comes next? Not your domain. People's responses, preferences, biases? Not yours to carry. That's where anxiety ends, at the border between action and outcome. And when you internalize that, you become unstoppable. I mean, think about this. Most people live their entire lives enslaved to outcomes they don't control. They wait for praise, for approval, for signs from the universe. And when those don't come, they collapse. But what if you became different? What if you were the kind of person who said, I will give my best, because it's who I am, not because of what I get back? That's the Stoic way. That's freedom. That's peace. Now, let's flip the script. Because anxiety isn't just fear. Sometimes, it's control. We want to control how people see us. We want to control whether we get the job. We want to control whether our plans go perfectly. But here's the hard truth. Control is an illusion. Let me ask you, have you ever had a plan go exactly the way you imagined it? Probably not. Life is chaos, but that's not a threat. That's an opportunity. Because if you let go of needing certainty, you gain something far more powerful: adaptability. Stoicism doesn't make you passive. It makes you precise. You stop wasting time on hypotheticals and start mastering reality. I remember another night, not dramatic, but equally powerful. I was working on a creative project I truly cared about. Months of effort, and I released it, and it flopped. Barely any response. The algorithm didn't catch it. I felt crushed. But then I remembered. Was my effort within my control? Yes. Was the algorithm within my control? No. So I stood up, took a walk, and began planning the next one. That small moment was victory. Because success isn't in outcomes, it's in ownership. You can't guarantee you'll win. But you can guarantee you'll keep showing up. And if you keep showing up with clarity, courage, and calm, you win every day, no matter what happens. Let me leave you with this before we dive into the final segment. Ask yourself right now, what are 3 things in my life I'm stressing over that I don't actually control? Be honest. Write them down if you have to. Now, can you release them? And then ask, what are 3 small things I can change today? A conversation, a routine, a thought pattern. Start there. That's the Stoic path. That's how we eliminate anxiety, not by becoming cold or robotic, but by becoming radically honest and beautifully human. The ancient secret that made Roman emperors emotionally untouchable. Let's travel back, way back, to ancient Rome. The most powerful man in the world at the time wasn't just a general, or a ruler, or a politician. He was all 3 and more. He was Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of Rome. But here's what's wild. Despite holding absolute power, despite commanding legions, despite having every pleasure and luxury imaginable at his fingertips, Marcus Aurelius suffered. He lost children to illness. He was betrayed by close allies. He endured a devastating plague that killed millions. And through it all, he wrote, not for fame, not for followers, but to himself, in a journal, quietly, honestly. And in those pages, we find something miraculous, not the words of a man trying to escape pain, but of a man choosing clarity in the middle of chaos. One line in particular changed my life forever. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. Stop, read that again, really take it in. The pain isn't the problem. It's how you interpret it. And your interpretation? That's under your control. That's the ancient secret. That's what made this emperor, who could have collapsed under the weight of anxiety, emotionally untouchable. Now, let's bring this into your life. Have you ever gone through something hard, truly hard, and come out stronger? A breakup that taught you what you truly value. A job loss that pushed you toward your real calling. A failure that taught you more than 100 successes ever could. The event itself didn't define you. Your response did. That's the key Stoic insight. We don't control what happens, but we do control what it means. You are the narrator of your own life. And the story you tell yourself becomes your reality. So what story are you telling right now? When life gets hard, do you say, "This always happens to me"? Or do you say, "This is where I grow"? When people let you down, do you say, "I can't trust anyone"? Or, "Now I know who belongs in my life"? When the future feels uncertain, do you say, "I'm doomed"? Or, "I'll adapt like I always do"? You see the difference? One story leads to anxiety. The other leads to power. Now I want to take you behind the scenes, into a conversation I had with a former Navy SEAL. We were talking about fear, about panic, about how they handle the chaos of combat. He looked me dead in the eye and said, "Panic is a choice. It's your body's suggestion, but your mind decides." That's Stoicism, not in a book, not in theory, in life or death moments. You can't control the incoming chaos, but you can train your response. Which brings us to today, this exact moment in your life. What are you facing right now? What's keeping you up at night? What are the voices in your head saying when it's quiet? Now pause. Zoom out. Let's apply the Stoic filter. What part of this do I control? What part of this is just noise? What action can I take right now, not tomorrow, not when I feel better, not when the stars align, but right now? Maybe you're stuck in a toxic relationship. Maybe your career feels like a dead end. Maybe your health is slipping. All of that is real. And all of it can change. But the change starts inside you. The Stoics didn't wait for motivation. They didn't wait for the perfect moment. They lived by one core principle. Do what you can, with what you have, where you are. Because this moment is the only one you'll ever control. And within this moment lies everything you need to begin again. Let me give you one last, unforgettable story. There was a man named Viktor Frankl. He survived the Holocaust. He lost his entire family. He was tortured, starved, dehumanized, but he emerged with a truth more powerful than any tyrant. He said, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances." That's not just philosophy, that's lived truth. You are not what happens to you. You are what you choose to become in response. So let's wrap this entire journey into one unstoppable mindset. 1. Identify what you can't control. Let it go. 2. Identify what you can control. Take action, immediately. 3. Own your interpretation of reality. Change the story. 4. Practice this every day. Build the habit. 5. When fear shows up, greet it like an old friend, and ask, "What can I do right now?" Because in every anxious moment, there's always something you can do. You can breathe. You can speak kindly to yourself. You can take a single step forward. And in doing that, you reclaim your power. Anxiety only survives in the gap between what is and what we wish were true. But when we collapse that gap with presence and action, anxiety disappears. So here's what I want you to take from this video. You don't need to control everything. You just need to control something, right now. Start small. Drink water. Take a walk. Speak the truth. Turn off the noise. Say no when you mean it. Say yes when it matters. Your life won't change in a single day. But your direction will. And direction is destiny. Let me leave you with this final quote from Epictetus. How long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself? The moment is here. The anxiety? That was never real. But your power? That's always been real. Claim it. Right now. This isn't just philosophy. This is war against your anxiety, and you just won the first battle. Now drop a comment below telling us the one thing you're letting go of, and the one thing you're taking control of today. Because the Stoic revolution starts with you, and it starts now. Like, share, save this, watch it again when the storm hits. Because the next time anxiety knocks, you'll know exactly what to do. You'll eliminate anxiety by embracing what you can actually change right now. You got this.